Welcome to this edition of Under the Radar for the 14th of October, and before I tell you all about what Scottish police are up to these days, no, I'm not Independent Man's surprisingly successful transition into a woman with a barely noticeable Slavic accent. My name is Stacy King, and I'm filling in for Independent Man because he's off at a conference today and will be returning soon. So, maybe you've heard, maybe you haven't, but last weekend Scottish police arrested another fellow YouTuber for hate speech. Anti-feminist Goodfella got arrested last Friday and spent his weekend in jail over a tweet posted to an account of his that said, and I quote, "Where's a Muslim with a truck when you need one? #Pride Glasgow." I'll let him give you a quick rundown of what happened.
It started on Friday night, about just after 7 o'clock at night, right? I'm in the house myself, my son, he's at his gran's, right? There's a knock at the door, the police, right? A man and a woman. So then all these thoughts go through your head, you know, and I'm thinking, maybe something's happened nearby. I stay in the East End of Glasgow, shit's always happening round here. So I thought maybe they're just looking for witnesses. Can we come in? We need to speak to you about something. Sure, no problem. So they come in. We need to speak to you because we got a complaint. We got a complaint about something that you posted on social media. So I said, well, what's the post? What are you talking about? What post did I make? Oh, we can't discuss that here. We'd like to discuss it down the station. So we have to detain you, right? It'll just be a few hours. Oh, it'll just be a few hours, you know. And me, Mr. Innocent, I'm thinking, well, the police want to talk to me for a few hours. No problem, I can spare a few hours, right? So we get to the police station and they say, would you like to speak to a lawyer? In a tone that suggests, you probably don't need one. Which right away made me think, fucking right, I'm taking a lawyer. So they put me in a jail cell. I get a phone call from my lawyer, and this is when I finally find out what I did wrong, right? So I'm speaking to the lawyer, and she says to me, oh, it's a social media post you made. And I'm like, okay, what was the social media post? She says, you posted on Twitter on the 19th of August, right? Where's a Muslim with a truck when you need one? #Pride Glasgow. Pride Glasgow is the gay pride parade thing, right? So I said that to the lawyer on the phone. I said, what the hell's wrong with that? I don't see anything wrong with that, right? And she said, well, it's because of the recent terror attacks in Europe that involved vehicles, trucks and cars and vans, right? I'll send a lawyer out, so I'm sitting there for like 2 hours, or at least it felt like 2 hours. So he turns up and they say, do you want to speak to a lawyer before the interview? In a tone that suggests, you don't really need to, it's just an interview. So of course I go, you're fucking right, I want to speak to my lawyer before the interview, fucking mental, right? So I talked to him beforehand and he says, look, simple as this, right? Every single question they ask you, say no comment, right? If they ask you if you're wearing trousers, no comment, right? It doesn't matter what they ask, no comment. And I said, but this can be explained. They went, no, now is not the time to make a case. You're going to get arrested and you're going to be here until Monday, right? Aye, so this is when I find out that I'm in until Monday, and remember it's Friday night. That's the whole weekend, right? And I haven't done anything wrong. I'm an innocent person, I'm a law-abiding citizen, have been my whole life, haven't done anything wrong, but I have to spend the weekend in jail, right? And they asked me all these questions in the interview, right? And the things that came up were, who made the complaint, right? The person who made the complaint was the director of Pride Glasgow. They asked me 2 questions, well, one question, 2 different subjects, which I thought was very strange for the police to be asking. Again, I no commented, but what they asked was, what is your opinion of Muslims? And then they asked, what is your opinion of the LGBT community? And this is what's really interesting to me, right? Because talking about context, the context was given. Had the police have done 15 seconds of investigation, actual investigation, right? They would have found the context, and it would have been cut and dried, done, end of story, finished, right? But they didn't. What they did do, however, was they investigated to find out who wrote the tweet. They didn't do any investigation to find out the context of the tweet. They investigated to find out who wrote the tweet. So that's twice In the same day, twice. And that's within the hour, by the way. Twice the context has been given. Clear and precise, the context is given. Did the police care? No. When I left the court, I finally get my phone back, right? And I'm finally able to phone my mother-in-law who was watching my son, right? When I was in the police station Friday night, they don't. It's not like the movies in America. You don't get a phone call. What they do is you get a phone call, but you don't get to make it, right? They get to make it. So they say, "Who would you like us to phone on your behalf?" Right? So I said, "I'd like you to phone my mother-in-law because she's my son's gran, right? Because she's looking after my son right now. And if I'm in here till Monday, I need her to know that I'm in here." Okay, we've got our details. I said, "No, can you make sure you phone our mobile?" So I got my phone, and I gave them our mobile phone number, right? And I said, "Will you phone her? Make sure that's the only thing I'm interested in is that doesn't happen. I don't mind my son missing school on the Monday, but they need to know, right? I don't mind spending a weekend in jail. It's not an issue. That was my concern, was my son, right?" So they said, "Yes, we'll make the phone call. If we don't make contact, we'll let you know, so that you can give us another contact to phone," right? So I thought, right, okay. So the next day on a Saturday, they come round with the food or whatever it was they came round for, and I said to the guy, I said, "Have you made that phone call yet? I just need to know that my son's okay, and have you made the phone call?" He says, "If they haven't came and spoke to you, then that means they've made contact. But I'll double check," right? So he goes and he double checks. I don't hear from him again, so I'm thinking the phone call must have been made, right? No, I'm seriously thinking of getting a lawyer here and doing something about this, because this is the worst thing about the whole weekend, right? When I get out, I finally got my phone, and I phoned my mother-in-law. First thing I say is, "So did the police phone you?" No. They didn't phone.
Now, I want to bore you with just a little bit of Scotland's hate crime legislation that allows for such gross miscarriages of injustice to be carried out. Hate crime is behavior which is motivated by hatred, malice, ill will, or prejudice towards people because they form part of a specific group, such as people of a particular race or sexual orientation. They highlight race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, and transgender identity as groups protected under hate crime laws. Now, going down the list of punishable offenses, we get to offenses under sections 18, 19, and 23 Public Order Act 1986, which prohibit the use of threatening, abusive, or insulting words, behavior, or written material which will stir up racial hatred. Insulting, being basically the word allowing for the Scottish police to arrest and detain a law-abiding citizen over a playful but otherwise innocuous tweet sent from his account. Instead of, getting rid of the network of rape gangs they've got going over there? Now, to finish this off, while watching his video and listening to the 7 circles of bullshit he had to go through, I kept asking myself why. Who would want or need something like this to happen? And I think he answers it pretty well here.
The director of Pride Glasgow, do you know that that's a charity? Do you know that that's a charity? Who are they helping? Well, how is that a charity? So they're actually a registered charity. I don't know why, but they are. So obviously he's using the funds to get a lawyer, press charges against innocent people like myself, harass innocent people like myself. And the reason he's doing this, right, this is the reason, I'll explain the reason, right, it's very simple, right. He wants to get hate crimes against the LGBT community up, right, so that when it comes to getting more funding, he can then go, "Oh, look at the rise in hate crimes against the LGBT community." But when you hear rise in hate crimes, what they mean is rise in tweets that he has taken out of context in the most extreme manner. That's what a hate crime is. That's his agenda. The government's agenda with this hate crime, hate speech crap is they don't want their citizens, who they work for, by the way, not the other way around, but they don't want their citizens questioning their policies.
You know what, I tend to agree with him and encourage all of you to grab a drink, bowl of popcorn, or cup of tea and go watch his entire 15-minute video. I'll make sure you have a link to it in the description. Moving on from the UK to the US of A, and California in particular, I found 2 news stories about 2 changes in the law that go together perfectly, like salt and pepper, peanut butter and jelly, bleach and battery acid. Let me show you. New California law allows jail time for using wrong gender pronoun. Sponsor denies that would happen. And knowingly exposing others to HIV will no longer be a felony in California. How? Just let's give a real-life example of this to give a bit of perspective on the situation. Say you infect a tranny with HIV after not disclosing your status. That's fine. Trannies walk that shit off all the time, right? But dare call him a he? Oh my god, we're locking your ass up because in today's world, words hurt more than immune deficiency. Obviously. I'm starting to wonder if all of this isn't done on purpose because all it's really doing is creating a growing resentment for the people in the trans community and all the people that try to legislate our conduct around them on their behalf. It's hurting more than it's helping, and it's setting worrying precedents when freedom of speech and expression are concerned. After a closer read of the gender pronoun article, you'll notice it's directed at medical personnel and it's aimed to accommodate transgender people in hospitals and nursing homes, but I've heard many people argue slippery slope here and basically argue Jordan Peterson's position against Bill C-16 in Canada and how counterproductive it is to give the government the permission to compel speech. As far as the other story goes, I share the common sense position that knowingly infecting someone with a life-changing and potentially life-threatening disease should be and remain a crime no matter who that inconveniences in the process. Lastly, in This Is Why You Don't Comply with Identitarians' Demands news, Boy Scouts' decisions to welcome girls isn't completely welcome. After years of article after article, after opinion piece, after yet another article, talking about how discriminatory and unfair it is to keep girls out of Boy Scouts, over and over and over again, Boy Scouts announced this on the International Day for Girls. Today, the Boy Scouts have made clear that they have heard the millions of girls and their families and will allow scouts of all genders to participate as full members and earn the rank of Eagle. As expected, many people commended the decision, calling it yet another step forward to a bright future, but others, namely the Girl Scouts organization, weren't as impressed. What I found most amusing about this story is the public statements made by Girl Scouts representatives regarding the change in policy. See if you can spot all the buzzwords. The Boy Scouts house is on fire. Instead of addressing systemic issues of continuing sexual assault, financial mismanagement, and efficient programming, BSA's senior management wants to add an accelerant to the house fire by recruiting girls. We're confused as to why, rather than working to appeal to the 90% of boys who are not involved in BSA programs, you would choose to target girls, rather than seeking to fundamentally transform BSA into a co-ed program. We believe strongly that Boy Scouts should instead take steps to ensure that they are expanding the scope of their programming to all boys, including those who BSA has historically underserved and underrepresented, such as African American and Latino boys. What I take away from this story is that you can never please everyone, so it's best to do what works best for you and care little about what others have to say about it. As far as the Scouts' new policies go, as long as everyone is okay with it, I don't see why the Boy Scouts can't have some groups be only for boys and some groups for both girls and boys. As a former tomgirl myself, I have to say some of us just do better in mixed company. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to this channel and my channel, Stacy King, for more interesting content like this. If you have any thoughts and opinions on any of the stories, please share them in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day!